In this video, we'll look at the life of Esau and how his failure of epic proportions determined his destiny, and how his failure is repeated by people all around you every day. Jacob and Esau were twin brothers, sons of Isaac, Abraham's son of promise that was featured in the life lesson on Abraham. Esau was older, and Jacob was the younger twin. Jacob, whose name was later changed to Israel, is the man for whom the nation of Israel is named. We're introduced to Jacob and Esau in Genesis 25, which takes place in about 1800 BC. The story of their birth is noteworthy. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was barren, and the Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. The Lord said to her, "Two nations are in your womb, and two peoples from you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." When the time came for Rebekah to give birth to the twins, the first to be born had a skin disorder, a reddish complexion, and his entire body was covered with an extraordinary amount of hair. So they named him Esau, which means red. And then his brother was born with his hand grasping Esau's heel, and so they named him Jacob, which means one who supplants. And the twin boys grew up, and Jacob, who was just a few minutes younger than his brother, preferred the indoors, staying inside the tents most of the time, while Esau loved to hunt and spend most of his time outdoors. And as they grew, their mother Rebekah favored Jacob over Esau. Well, when they grew into young men, Esau did something that altered his life and that of his brother forever. He allowed his brother Jacob to cleverly obtain his birthright, or his position of family authority. He sold it to his brother Jacob for a bowl of stew. On one occasion, Esau came in from a hunting trip and was ravished. He saw that his brother had prepared a bowl of stew, and he said to his brother Jacob, "Give me some of that stew." And Jacob answered, "I will in exchange for your birthright." And Esau replied, "Well, I'm starving to death, so what good is my birthright to me?" So Jacob was able to get the title of family leader simply by having the courage and the tenacity to ask for it. He bought it. He bought it for a bowl of stew. And Jacob isn't criticized by Scripture for doing that. In fact, Esau is criticized for treating his birthright in such a way. By minimizing importance, the Scripture actually says that he despised it. Well, what it signifies is that Jacob will be the spiritual leader of the family. And that's important because in this family, the promises of the covenant that God made with Abraham will now flow through Jacob and his children rather than through Esau's children. And this is profoundly important. And so accordingly, God later identifies himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, not the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. Well, what can we learn from the life of Esau? Well, in Esau's life, we actually see a powerful picture of what's happening in our modern culture. You see, this family was well aware that God had called them to something important. They knew that God had called their grandfather Abraham and his descendants, their family, to participate in a mission that was strategic. Remember that God had told Abraham that his family would be the means by which the entire world would be blessed. But it was a much more important mission than they could imagine. The mission was the ransoming of the human race, and their role in that mission was critical.
Esau.
And as the firstborn son of Isaac, the promised child of Abraham, Esau was in line for more of a strategic role, more responsibility, and more blessing than he could ever imagine. Yet, all he could focus on was what was right in front of him, his hunger, his immediate physical appetite. And so he traded his position of leadership in the most strategic family on the planet for a bowl of stew. As you look across the culture today, it's easy to draw a parallel. God has created each of us to experience such a wonderful destiny in Him. God's desire is that each person alive today would experience a deep and intimate relationship with Him that's full of meaning and purpose and significance. A life that's full of love and adventure and joy and peace and passion. And He's designed us and shown us a blueprint for how to experience the life that He intends for each of us. His design for each of our lives is uniquely wonderful. His blessings are beyond what most of us can even imagine. He knows how to satisfy our deepest longings. He knows how to do that because He created us. And yet, all that so many people see is what's right in front of them, the earthly, temporary pleasures that offer a form of satisfaction, but ultimately leave us empty. So instead of pursuing God's purpose and blessing on their lives, so many people make the sole focus of their existence the pursuit of their appetites, and they chase after money, success, and pleasure, and reputation, and influence, and fame, and the things that they think will satisfy. Now, God created all those things, and in and of themselves, they're not bad, but when we make those things the focus of our attention and our allegiance, and we don't handle them in the proper context that God intended, we trade away the far greater blessings that God has for us. These become our bowl of stew. And so from the life of Esau, we see that we can have the bowl of stew cooked our way that will leave us far short of our intended purpose and our destiny. Or we can instead retain and treasure and honor what God has offered to us, the calling on our lives to fulfill the destiny that He has for us. And ironically, those things that all of us want, health, material provision, and guilt-free passion, and pleasure and adventure, and purpose and meaning and significance, we can have them if we agree to have them in the context that God intends for us. So from the life of Esau, we see the importance of embracing rather than despising the call upon our lives.